If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get back. 'Cause I lost my way when I lost you. Now I'm wondering what I'm gonna do. Help me be strong, 'cause it all feels so wrong without you now. Won't you help me through somehow? Get me through somehow. If I believe that in my dreams I'll always feel your touch, if I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then. If I believe I'll hold you in my arms again, I can wait. I know that I can wait. I can wait till then. I can wait till then. Ooh,
Good evening, Somerville. My name is Joanne, and I have a special guest tonight. Her name is Elizabeth Addison.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about what got you to the point before your business, This Is Treatment.
Sure. Thank you, Joanne, for having me. It's an honor to be able to tell my story and to be able to express it in this way. And hopefully a lot of people will see it and be inspired to maybe get some help themselves or something of the sort. So I am 7 years clean now. And 7 years ago, I was broken and beaten down and knocking on death's door. And I had to make a choice. It was time to make a decision. You know, do I want to die like this, never realizing my potential? Or do I want to take a leap of faith and do something that scared me, but that, and I wouldn't know what that actually looked like. I didn't know what sobriety or recovery looked like. For me, I couldn't imagine myself not using for one day, let alone thinking. They'd say one day at a time, but you know that it's like, and so I thank God I took that leap. And I went to a treatment facility in Roxbury, and I stayed at that treatment facility for a year. If I back it up a little bit, as a kid, I always aspired to be this artist and to really use, I remember seeing Rent for the first time and feeling like, oh my goodness, that is something that I want to do with my life. I didn't necessarily know what that would look like for me, but it was something that I wanted to do with my life. And at the time, my father was a drug addict, and his addiction was ripping our household apart. And at the time I saw Rent, he had just disappeared. And I wouldn't see him again for many, many years, and to this day there is no relationship there, although he is sober now. And I wanted to tell a story about addiction at 13. I said, I'll tell a story about my family and addiction and what it was like growing up like that. I did not realize at the time that I was planting a seed for the future, basically. But I went through most of my life never accomplishing anything, never doing well in school, thinking that I was dumb, thinking that everything that I felt I was supposed to do was wrong, because if I loved a drug addict father who wouldn't stop using for his daughter, right, I know different now, but at the time I didn't know any differently. And so then everything that I must think and believe and love must be wrong, right? And so I went through my life really struggling with who I was and a lack of faith in myself and what I had to offer. And I didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I was capable. And so I was a recipe for addiction, actually, for trying to find something to make myself feel better. I look back and I'm just like, oh man, it was all there. You know, first it started off with food, and then it just went to weed. And then for me, my drug of choice was alcohol, but I tried other things. And if I had stayed out longer, I probably would have gone on to other drugs as well. And I just wanted to make myself feel better, and I didn't know how, because I didn't have the tools. I didn't have therapy. I didn't have a stable family situation that provided those tools for me. And again, I didn't do well in school, and so all I had was, actually, I felt like I had nothing, really. And so I moved to California when I was 19, thinking that that would be the cure to all my problems, but the problem was that I took me with me. You can't escape yourself, really. And people around me were smoking weed, and it was no big deal to them. It was nothing. And the one thing that they said to me that really clicked for me was, it'll make you feel better. But it's not addictive. I needed to hear that. It's not addictive, it'll make you feel better. And I said, well, okay. And that was wrong for me, because I was already an addict. I had already been showing signs of addiction through other behaviors. I just didn't know. And then I started to drink, and from the minute I started drinking, I was blackout drunk. Blackout. And I can't, the fact that I have any brain cells left is kind of, or any memory, I mean, I don't remember a lot of it, but just any memory whatsoever is just amazing to me, and the gift that is recovery, and the gift that is the human body, and how resilient it is. But it was, and horrible things happened. Car accident, sexual assault, losing job after job, friend after friend. At the end of my drinking, I mean, nobody wanted to be around me. I was drinking like a gallon of vodka every 2 days. My body was starting to fail. I was having night terrors. I was literally like crawling out of my skin. I had alienated everybody, and I literally was dying. Like, I could feel my body starting to slip away. Like, I felt it. And I said, if I don't get sober by the time before I'm 30, I'm gonna be dead. I know it. Like, whether it be from my body actually failing, or whether it be some sort of situation. I can't tell you how many just cars I randomly got into. Oh, I need a ride home. Can I get a ride? Just randomly. Or waking up to a guy sexually assaulting me and being able to get out of it. Or, you know, waking up in the hospital after my car accident and having glass all in my eye. To this day, when I go to the eye doctors, if they look into my eyes, they say, well, what is all the scarring? I said, I had a car accident. They said, you are very lucky to be able to see. You know.
And you don't wear glasses?
I do wear glasses. I'm just not wearing them today, honey.
That's okay.
But I'm a very lucky human, and I believe that the higher power of my understanding, the God of my understanding, said you have a purpose that is greater than you know, greater than I know today. I just serve what I feel is His purpose for me. And that sort of, there's a person named Lin-Manuel Miranda who wrote the musical Hamilton and In the Heights. And when I was in the depths of my addiction, occasionally I wouldn't have any money, so I would have the really cheap alcohol, and I'd be watching and sobbing this video of this guy and his musical. And there was something about it that connected with me. It was a documentary about the whole creation of In the Heights. And I said, and something in my spirit, something in me said, you want to be like that person. And I said, well, I can't. And I said, yes, you can, but you can't do it unless you get sober. You can't do that. There's something about this guy that is going to lead you out of this darkness. There's something about this thing that you've forgotten that you wanted so deeply. And so it took some time, but about a year later, I went into treatment, and my life has changed ever since. I mean, I had a relapse, but it was a very short one that sort of brought me back to what I need to do. And so that was 7 years ago, and today I get to call that person a mentor, which is beyond anything. It's only because of the gift of recovery.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You know, I see a lot of people in recovery, and it's amazing. There's 23 million people out there that have actually found recovery. And that's wonderful. When we have a day and age now, we have 6 people a day dying in Massachusetts alone from addiction. And you know, and alcohol can kill you just as well as pills. You know, I firsthand, I used to do the same thing. I have been actually not drinking for over 5 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it's, because, you know, I used to say, why do you drink? You don't like it. I say, well, you're social. You're doing it to socialize with other people, because it's usually food and alcohol that is related to meetings or
Sure.
events. And I said, well, you drank because you didn't want to eat, but then you would drink and then you would eat anyway. So
Well,
why bother?
I have to be honest, that was one of the pleasures, because food being the first addiction, that was one of the pleasures of drinking. Unfortunately, this sounds weird, but I think some of you might be able to relate. But the sensation that it is that's eating when you're that drunk, and the way that it feels and how good everything tastes and stuff like that, that was, strangely enough, like weed, everything led back to food in a weird way to my very first addiction. Like, but it was like I was on a hamster wheel. I was going in circles because I didn't want to overeat or to whatever. I drank, but then it would lead me there. I smoked weed, it would lead me there. And I kept trying to...
Did you have a weight problem?
Oh yeah. I still struggle with like right now I'm the heaviest I've been in years, and I struggle with feelings of wanting to fill myself up, you know, wanting to find that comfort.
Right.
You know?
You know what I noticed, that when you're happy, you eat. When you're upset and you're very emotional and depressed, you eat. So it's like food is always there. There's no way that you can avoid food, whereas you can avoid alcohol. I
said it recently to a coworker of mine. I'm like, it's just, you can't not eat. And a coworker of mine who struggled with the eating disorder, I'm like, that's the most difficult thing. With alcohol and with other substances, yes, very hard to stop. Very, very hard to stop. But with food, you have no choice. You have to. And so for me, there's part of it in recovery. You learn about awareness, and having awareness about your feelings and all different sorts of things to sort of help you understand, like, what am I going through right now, in order to not lead you back out, right? And so having that awareness of, oh, Elizabeth, you're eating this thing right now because of this feeling, and actually it's not doing anything for you, but you're still doing it because now you're in compulsion, so you're compulsively doing something. And so sometimes I'm grateful for the awareness, but sometimes it's like, Jesus Christ, I know that I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. But I think that what that speaks to, though, is that this is just a journey, you know? And for me, the key to any of the things that I want to work on and change and do differently, or behaviors that I want to change, is having some empathy for myself and some compassion for myself, and allowing myself to be human. Because at some point, and I don't know when, and there's a lot of people that I know that are like this, we got taught that it wasn't okay to be human, to have flaws, but along with, like, humility, for example, humility allows you to see both sides, your strengths and your weaknesses, although maybe not weaknesses, I don't necessarily like that word, but things that you can work on. And it's all okay, because it too will pass, right?
Right, absolutely. The thing is that I always say that. Now, I'm a manager of 11 people, and when they make mistakes, it's like, oh my God, you think it was the end of the world. And I look at them, I said, I'm not perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect. You can make a mistake every once in a while. I'm not going to jump all over anybody, It's like, I always tell people that this is your strength. You know, like in conversation, I'll just say, you know, we always do such a great job, but I don't know what happened today. Let's see if we can, you know, change the direction and improve for tomorrow. I mean, you know, we're not perfect. And who is harder on themselves than the person?
Oh, it's
You're
so
probably
true.
very, very hard on yourself.
Oh, it's so true. I am the laziest, most like you know, just today I was beating myself up because my house. I'll be honest, y'all, my house is a mess, and I've been traveling a lot to and from Boston, New York, Cambridge, Somerville. I've been working a bit in New York, taking class, and then doing things here, and it's like. If I look back in time, I'm like, Elizabeth, 7 years ago, or even like 3 or 4 years ago, you weren't doing all of these things. So one of my I don't even want to say defects of character, but one of my things that I'm working on is that I'm a messy human. And I will get home and be tired and just throw my crap everywhere and be like, I can't. And then it starts this cycle where it's like, oh my God, I'm horrible. I can't even clean up my home. You know, and then it's like, why even try? And, you know, or I have this script to read, or I have this video to edit, because I also edit video. I have all the things. I have this song to write. Oh my God. And so I get so into my head and so overwhelmed that I get stuck. That's my go-to response to feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch TV. Why?
I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing. Well, of course, I was married for 32 years, and I got divorced 10 years ago. And the funny thing is that I used to always say, they'll never have on my tombstone that I was an excellent housewife. So I'm not going to worry about that. So my house is very neat because I don't have my 2 children running around anymore. You know, my oldest passed away almost 10 years. It'll be November 15th. It'll be his 10-year anniversary. And then my youngest, who is my baby, is 39. So, you know, now I can have a clean house. And I'm old. So I don't do as much as you do now because I've already, you know, I'm working on my 2nd retirement.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be in February.
Okay.
If not sooner, it depends.
What do you see yourself doing after retirement?
I'm running for city council at large.
Yes.
To me, I love, you know, there's a lot of issues that I'd like to see change, and it took me, I was home for 32 years being a mother and a wife, and it's like I'm back to myself when I was 19 or 20 years old. Yes, I'm a very, very strong-willed person, and I'd like to see change, and I'd like, if I can do that, I will do that.
Yes, I really love hearing that. I love hearing that because I think that as a woman, it's important to be like, you know what, no, I want to create the change that I want to see, and I have the ability to do it, and I'm going to do it. And I also love, and I wish my mom would listen to this, I love the idea of like, it doesn't matter. We get, in our society, we get this idea of, at a certain age, we should be doing this, or we shouldn't be doing that, or we should be, or once we retire, then that's it, I'm just going to relax. And everyone looks towards retirement like, oh, I can just like not do anything anymore. The people that I admire the most are the people, like some of my mentors who at 55 or 60 retired, and then they started a whole new career. And then at 65, they're like, oh, let me start this new business. And then at 70, oh, let me do this. There was a woman in her 90s. She passed away a couple of years ago, but at 93, she was dancing in a dance company. And I said, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I think the death of us really is when we stop moving, and we stop learning, when we stop wanting to grow and develop. And it's like, if you have this lifetime, what, at 60, are you just going to just stop and do nothing? No, get off your booty and figure something else out to do. I love that.
Do that.
And good.
No, the funny thing is I retired my first job after 28 years at Verizon. So, and like I started at entry level, and before I left, I was a systems administrator. And now I'm a manager, and I started as a sub when I first came to this job. So I'm leaving as a manager as well as union president.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what? I've always been the person that starts and finishes. It's not ego. It's not needing to be authority. It's just that I'm one of those go-to people that you go to and we get things done. You know. So now, yeah, I was thinking, what am I going to do next? What I should be doing. I'm 65, and in February I'll be 66. Social Security and all that. I should be traveling and enjoying myself. But no, I can't do that. Because sometimes depression sets in if I'm not doing enough.
Sure.
It's crazy, but it's true.
No, I think there's a lot of people who, at least that I've known of, who as soon as they retire, some of them die, or some of them just become depressed because they've never, especially people that have done certain jobs that I don't know how to explain this exactly, but there's certain jobs that when they're done, they haven't actually done the work outside of the job to figure out what they actually like. You know, their whole life has been that job, and so they've never ever been like, well, what else is it that I want to do with myself? Is there a hobby? Is there something that's going to continue to help me grow, to help me learn, to sort of stay in that sort of mindset? And I think it's important. I think it's vital to stay, in terms of our own health, to stay in that quest of sorts, you know, just to not just like, now I'm going to just sit at home and watch TV, because then now your body is starting to, it's a mess. So I love hearing that you want to do more and you want to run for city council, and there's
You're doing the same thing. You know, you're finding your dream.
Yes.
And you're doing, you know, and you gradually keep doing it. Just started your business.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is Treatment LLC. I just LLC'd it. Actually, there's a lot that's been going on lately, which is interesting to talk about, because in my own head, I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I suck. The voice is in your head, but that's why. So I have This Is Treatment, which is my musical about women at a treatment facility for addiction, and the backdrop is recovery, but really when you get into it, it's about recovering from life, and it's about community and how we build each other up and how we love on one another. It is drama-filled because, well, treatment was full of drama, but at its heart, it's a love story to self and to our fellow women, my fellow women. And then my other musical, F Now What, I don't know if I can swear on this, but F Now What, is kind of basically about that moment when I decided to go after my dream. So I didn't go to college. I'm not a trained musician. I took a couple of years of piano lessons when I was a kid, but I sucked. I just didn't understand, like looking at those black notes or the little dots, I'm like, what the heck is this? You know, it didn't sing to me like I think to some others it sang to them. But because I didn't excel in that area, and because I didn't excel in anything else, I really just thought I was no good, and I could never.
Self-esteem is a very, very hard thing.
It's a hard thing, and I just never believed that I could have this dream that I had until I got sober and utilizing the tools of recovery. Just, you know, I remember, so in 2000, and I detail this in my new show, in 2013, I was 6 months clean or something like that, and I was volunteering, at a local dance studio, and somebody told me, based off of something that I read that I wrote, that I had a lot of songs in me, and I was like, no, I don't. No, I can't play the piano. I blah 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 blah. And he just said something very profound to me, which every musician or singer-songwriter seems to know, but I didn't. That if you find a melody, you can write a song. And it was so simple. It was like God was just like, boop. And the next day, and then for 3 weeks, I went to the piano every day for an hour, and I just started to plunk, because I figured I could find chords. I figured may not know what they are, but I think my ear is good enough to know. I've listened to enough musicals, and maybe. And then after 3 weeks of that showing up, I had 1 minute and 58 seconds of something, and I shared it with somebody that worked at the dance complex, which was the dance place that I was working at, and she said it was good. And as soon as she said that, I said I was off and running, and I was just like showing up every day playing. And then now, like 6 years later, and I have 2 musicals, and I just recorded a demo album of the second musical, and I won a grant, and I've been in New York, and it's just sort of like, once you take that leap, and once you decide to at least in my experience, and I think that in other people's experiences as well, at least people that I've spoken with, it's like the universe sort of just sort of bends to, like, it just, everything started to fall into place. It's hard work. I still don't really know what I'm doing, but it's given me the ability to touch people's lives and to create music and lyrics and dialogue and all the sorts of things that seem to be of use. And people actually believe that I know what I'm doing. I'll still say that, yeah, and so my company, This Is Treatment LLC, is going to continue that further. It's going to be sort of this incubator for new works, specifically by women and women who are rebuilding their lives, right? So women that are newly sober and have a story to tell and want to have a safe space to develop that story. Women that are coming out of perhaps domestic abuse situations or homelessness or formerly incarcerated. And I want to build with them. And I want to offer like a year and a half ago, I offered a workshop just to see, called, oh, there it is right now, Revive, that sort of gave a glimpse as to what I wanted to do, which is to have, it was an entrepreneurial workshop, it was a mind-body sort of meditation workshop, it was a dance, it was a story workshop, and then we had 2 performances, one of This Is Treatment and then of a local artist, Elora Lay, who was in This Is Treatment for 3 years and now she's off in LA doing her thing. Wow. Oh my God, I love my girls so much. They're amazing. And I wanted to see what that would look like. And I brought people from my recovery house there that were in the same treatment facility that I was in there, along with my teacher who was the person that runs the program and who has been a mentor to me, Margarita, there. And then I had other then just people from the public, so just random audience people. And it was just the most magical night. And I said, oh man, this is something that I have to develop into something that we can invite recovery houses, we can invite the public, we can sort of be together as we create together and we heal one another and connect one another and dance and sing and all these sorts of things. So I want to take that and eventually create a festival from that, but also harness that energy into like building more. And so like albums, my album for F Now What is going to be coming out of This Is Treatment LLC. The other works that I have coming are going to be coming out of This Is Treatment LLC. And hopefully down the road, it'll be just this humongous production company that helps uplift and inspire and takes us into the direction of creating the world that we want to see, as opposed to what we have right now.
You are amazing.
Ah.
I don't even have to ask any questions. No, but I just met Elizabeth.
Yes.
Oh,
Doggy.
yeah. I have a little puppy over here making a
cute.
little bit of noise. But anyway, I just met Elizabeth the other day when we were panelists for the documentary that the city of Somerville made called From Our Heart to Yours. And I was really impressed by your work. And also, she was a part of are you still a part of the
Improbable Players. They are a theater troupe that have been around since 1984 and was started by Lynn Bratley, who retired like 2 or 3 years ago, and now being directed by Andy Short, or is being directed by Andy Short, who was initially a player and then has become more. And then Chris Everett, who's also been there for like 18 years or so. And then just a bunch of actors in recovery. And I will say that it has been a huge part of my recovery. Huge part, because it bridged the things that I loved with recovery. And the only requirement is that you're a year sober and that you'll learn how to act, or you have some sort of presence or something like that. And we tell stories about, of addiction, of prevention, of recovery. All the actors, like I said, are in recovery, and we share our own stories after the program is over. And we do a Q&A with the kids, and we've seen in the 35 years that it's been around, millions of students. In my time there, I've been there almost 6 years, thousands and thousands of students, and it's just amazing, the transformation, things that you see, the things that kids are willing to tell us as a result of us doing these short plays is just amazing. And so right now I'm stepping back from acting a little bit. And right now am planning, we're on a hiatus right now though because it's the summertime, but I'm planning the performance for our upcoming gala in October, where we're hoping to raise some money to keep this thing going, as well as to celebrate 35 years. It's been quite extraordinary. Lynn was just newly sober, like a year sober, when she started with a couple of other people, and she just kept it going for so many years, and only recently retired. And it's just been, I mean, it's an amazing organization, and the kids, I can't help. I mean, part of not acting anymore with them is tough because of the way that you affect the kids.
Absolutely.
I
remember I actually belonged to Revere Cares About Prevention. After I lost my son Frankie, I lived on the beach for a year, and I got to meet a lot of people. And one of them was Marianne Frangulis from Moore, and Chris Alba. He was actually the one that introduced me to Marianne and quite a few other people in the network. And a lot of them were a part of the Revere has their memorial every year. And so I've met probation officers that work in the recovery courts. I call them drug courts, recovery courts. I like recovery courts better. And I started to speak at those events as well as recite a poem. And I met people from Improbable Players at the Meridian House, because we usually at the end of the year, after we have a vigil, we would give what excess money that was left over from that event to the Meridian House. And it was really remarkable because there were two people. You know, it was just a small facility. You can't bring in a whole group of players. But one was, the woman was an alcoholic and the male was a drug addict. And the stigma they had against each other. One being the alcoholic, well, you know, you're nothing but a drunk, you know, I mean, and they did so well. And even to act like they were drunk and high was amazing. But that was my first experience with them. And then about 2 years ago, they did it at Somerville High School.
I could have been in that.
Yeah, I think you
Could have
were.
been in that. It's just, you know, what's great, and that show that you probably saw was called Stages, and it's been around for a little bit. But what's great is that, I mean, we hit them with, okay, so I've run into this issue with my own show. Like, I want to see a show about addiction and recovery. Like, really, that's so depressing. And it's like, no, that's not all that there is, because we're actually talking about human beings and how complex we are and such like that. But what with the players too, I can imagine some of the kids being like, what the heck, we have to do this, you know. But we get them with laughter first. So we come in drunk coats, stereotypes basically. We play little games, like we do little short scenes, and we get them laughing. And I think sometimes teachers and maybe some of the administrators might be like, what the? But it's like, that gets you, because once you get somebody to laugh, then you get their defenses down and they're open to whatever it is. Like one of the things that we say in our opening monologue is that we're not here to tell you a lecture. You know, we're not here to lecture you. There's enough people out there lecturing people about whatever the heck it is. That's not what we're doing. We're here to show you a story. And if you get something out of it, then we did our job, you know? And then we hit them throughout and even in the beginning of the plays, it's funny. And then in the middle comes and we hit you with some drama, like real drama. And then at the end, not everything is resolved in a nice little package. You know, there are still some questions of what happened to some of these people, and, you know.
It's really real life.
It's real. And because these stories are based on real people also. And then we have the Q&A, and then kids are now open to ask questions. I mean, oh man, one thing that always will stick in my mind, a 12-year-old asked a question. His mother had just passed from an overdose maybe a couple months earlier. And he asked, and I got this question, he said, can you tell me what do I have to do to not end up like my mother? And to this day, that chokes me up, because it's, these kids, like we show them something that allows them the space to be vulnerable enough to be like, I don't want to be like that. How do I change? Or one success story was a junior in high school came up to us afterwards and talked about how he was having an issue with alcohol and all the things that were going on in his life. And the next year, we see him again, and he comes up to us. So the first year he came up to us, and he had the alcohol bloat. He just looked so tired. His energy was very low. You could tell that he was going through something. And then the next year, his energy was up. He didn't have that bloat anymore. And he said, after I saw your show, I stopped drinking. And I said, oh, now imagine, over the 35 years, even if just one or two people, that happened to, what a testament to the power of the work that we do with the Improbable Players, basically. It's life-changing. And the kids, they share things with you that are, afterwards, some of them will come up to us and talk to us, and some will share that they've been abused. Some will share that they're struggling with their own addiction issues. They're being beaten by their family. They're all these things. And at times, it's like, oh, you're so young. But then I remember back to when I was a kid and what I was going through at 11 or 12 and what my family dynamic was like. And I think, oh, okay. You're going through something, and I hope and I pray that something that we did can help you seek out the help that you need in order to continue to get through, as opposed to looking for the answer at the bottom of a bottle or in pills or a needle or something of the sort.
Now that's interesting because I have a lot of friends that actually started brought recovery centers up here in Massachusetts, and since it's it's kind of a new business, recovery, in a sense, because a lot of these people are adding things to it, such as yoga, weightlifting, because not just counseling in the recovery homes is enough.
It's true.
Or even the meetings.
It's true.
So the thing is, I feel that there's a lot of talent like yourself. You're doing it through your acting and your writing, and other people are doing the same. If they could just bring out the good qualities that they have.
Sure.
Because a lot of them just sit there, what am I going to do? They have no self-esteem.
Sure.
They feel that they're not worthy of a good life because they made one mistake. A mistake that lasted a long, long time for some people. And the whole thing is that you are worthy of a good life and that you do matter. So let's find what will help you maintain recovery.
Right. I think that, yes, and you're right. I think for me, and I can remember a woman that I was in treatment with saying to me, and this was right before I had relapsed, she had said to me, I said to her, oh God, something's missing. I was sober, but I'm like, something's missing. And she said, being sober should be enough. And I'm like, but it's not enough. It's not enough. For me, I'll say. And I knew that. And I think that what's exciting about now is that we are allowing the space to think of different modalities, different ways of treatment, different things that can work. Because not everybody is fit for one thing. And to treat it as such is I think, doing more harm than good. I think that some people find it in church. Some people find it in working out. Some people find it in theater. Some people find it in whatever, or a combination of things. For me in early recovery, it was, and I want to get back to it, for me it was like, as soon as I woke up, I worked out, I meditated, I prayed, I ate breakfast, these sorts of things, and then that set my day off beautifully. And then I looked to, we had our meetings, we had therapy. I had therapy. I was in therapy for a very long time. And I had something that I was going towards. I wanted to figure out what I was going to do as an artist. It was like, well, the only way that I can figure out what this thing that I'm supposed to do is if I stay sober and I keep showing up and I keep, and I have to be in contact with a higher power and I have to build community and I have to, there were just certain things that I was like, it has to be mind, body, and spirit. It has to be those things. I can't just focus on this one thing because then I'm missing all these other different areas. And for me, having a purpose, a sense of purpose, and something to go towards, something that I'm fighting for, something that I believe is of service, has helped me stay sober. And I've noticed that other people are opening up about being sober and things that have helped them. And for me, it's abstinence also. For me, I have no idea for anybody else. And the way that I was taught is in conflict with some of the things that are coming up now. But whatever takes you out of that darkness and into the light and into living a healthy, happy, productive life is, and that you're contributing to the community in a positive way, is go for it.
Absolutely.
You know?
We have artists we have that are showing their work, showing their, and songwriters and musicians, and they're all in recovery, and a lot of them do express that they're in recovery. And the thing is that we all need something other than, like you said, sobriety.
Yeah.
A lot of people cannot will not settle for just being sober.
Well, it's also, what else, I think initially the things that they, and this is what I speak to more in my new show, F Now What, is like the moment where, so it starts off with me trying to figure out what I'm going to do next with my life. So I graduate treatment, and I've been given a set of things to do, suggestions, get well job, 90 meetings in 90 days, sponsorship, all these sorts of things. And I think that looking back, it was sort of just get a foundation, you can start right there. This is what we're giving to you. Maybe take a class at some point, these sorts of things. But I'll be very honest, for me that didn't work, if I'm being perfectly honest. I actually, going towards what they told me to do was actually, what it felt like my spirit was being killed in some way, or it felt like something was wrong with me there in my opening number. It's like, what is the lyric? Keep coming back. If it works, I work. And it was like, but if it doesn't work, so therefore I don't work. So if I don't work, then something's wrong with me. As opposed to this idea of well, maybe we just have to find what works for you. So therapy is huge for me. Following certain spiritual principles that were given to me in recovery, huge for me. I will be very honest, I don't go to 12-step anymore, but the 12 steps are still a part of my life in terms of honesty, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness when your life's unmanageable, how to be of service. There's certain things that are laid out within those steps that are very much still something that I practice. But I found for me that meetings could be toxic for me. And I keep emphasizing that because I know there's some of you out there who are just like, this is what works and this works for me, so how do you put this down? I'm not putting any of it down.
No, of course not. We're
Not
all
at
individuals.
all. We're all individuals. And for me, I had to figure out what was working for me and how I felt like I was contributing and how I was being of service and how I could help the next one, and what within what God gave Elizabeth can she do. Therapy was, like I said, huge. The arts, huge. Being a part of the Improbable Players, we still are basically fellowshipping. On our way to a meeting, on our way to a school or something like that, we're still talking. We're connecting. We're still having these moments. We're all still sober people, getting together and having these conversations, and then we're telling stories about recovery. And so for me, it was just figuring out.
Those are your meetings.
That, right? So for me, it was figuring out what really worked for me and how to get there. And I think purpose was huge. And I think that when you don't, and you don't necessarily have to know your purpose. I think people saying, oh, find your purpose. But what are you curious about?
I'm going to tell you something. I'm 65 years old. Do you know how many times my purpose has changed along the way?
And that's great. And that's okay.
For 11 years, I volunteered for Pop Warner. And I used to do all the paperwork and make sure that all those kids were able to play and cheer. Because a lot of them would be there at the field watching the other kids, and they didn't have everything that they needed. So we found a way. We got a physician that would come in and do physicals for $5. You go to the school, and if you don't have a birth certificate, at least the school could say, notarize something saying that he's this age, you know what I mean? And then the report cards, if they didn't have it, we could get a copy. So we made sure that every single child that wanted to play or cheer would be on a team. And to me, that was huge. And it was 11 years of that. And then it changed.
And then it
went to
changes.
some other area. And you always say, well, what am I here for? And I still do that. And I'm 65.
I think and thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so important to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to do this for, or I don't even know how long until I'm steered in a different direction. And then my sail can shift and I can go this other way, and that's okay. And I can become curious about this thing and feel like my purpose is this. And then, oh, wait, this isn't it anymore. Oh, okay, I'm going. I think we have to allow ourselves that space to grow, that sort of growth. I think for me, initially, what I was given in treatment saved my life. I will never, ever, like that I would not be here without it. Then a couple of years in, out and about, I'm like, something's not working anymore for me. And I'm grateful that I had a therapist, and at the time I had a partner who he was also very much like, well, figure out what works for you, And then I was able to, through the care and the love and the guidance of people that I trusted, and some people that are on the path of recovery, like the Improbable Players, all my friends with them who I love deeply, was able to help me. Okay, you can continue to figure out what works for you. Continue to do that and continue to work on self. There are still, like I said earlier, there are things that I will always, and I think we as a whole will always want to work on, and that's okay.
It is. The one thing I did learn is that, first of all, we care about what others think.
Oh, this is true.
Okay?
Yes.
And when I went to classes, I did a 13-week course in Dale Carnegie, and the one thing that I learned is that we all feel the same. And I was there with millionaires and real estate tycoons, and here I am, just a mother working at Verizon. But, we all felt the same way. We all have the same feelings. We like to hear our name. We like to hear good things about ourselves. And the one thing that I did learn is you have to evaluate yourself. Every day you think about, did I do the right thing? And if I didn't, apologize for what you've done.
Yes, yes.
And the thing is that don't always look to others for their approval. You have to approve the person that you are to yourself.
Yes, yes.
And say, well, and think about it on a daily basis. Did I do okay? And those were good things that I learned. Because I was an instructor for the company and a supervisor, and I had to learn how to treat people.
Yes.
So that was huge for me. That made me feel better, because where I didn't have the self-confidence, now I still think about it and say, well, did I do the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? You know what I mean? But the one thing that I was a humanitarian.
Right.
I love helping people no matter where. And I'm also the union, the Lions Club president. So I work with the blind. We work with with people with diabetes. And that's just what makes me feel good, is just helping.
Yes.
Whether it's a youth program or whether it's, and doing the show. And caring about people in addiction. I'm a recovery coach as well.
Yes, yes. I think that and I don't know how many people are given the gift of like the understanding of how important being of service is. I think I didn't learn that, or I wasn't even given that idea until I got sober, until I was in treatment. And I was like, be of service, be of service, be of service. Wait, so actually helping others I help, not like I hate the way this could sound, is I help you, you help me. That's not what it's about. No. But it's stepping outside of yourself and just being of service to someone else. And yes, a byproduct of that is that you're going to feel good about yourself. But that shouldn't be, to me, that's not the intention of it. It's like, how do I get outside of my own crap and help somebody else? And
you think less of your own crap.
Yeah, you do. And so it's a beautiful.
And then the alcohol used to be the thing that would temporarily get you outside of yourself, but it was there the next day. So the thing is that if you have to keep busy,
Yes.
and that's the name of the game. The
Yeah.
whole thing is that you can be, some people can stay home and read a book, and that's okay. Some people can paint or, but you have to find what's good for you, because we need to have, our life needs to be, like there's so many hours of sleep, you need so many hours of work, you need so many hours of play, and that makes you a better person. A well-rounded person is having, all these things. You can't overwork because then you're going to burn yourself out.
Yes. That too.
Yeah, so you got to keep yourself busy. Some people, like I know people that they have a lot of anxiety, so the gym works for them to get rid of a lot of that hostility and anxiety. And you like music, you like writing, you like doing, you produce.
I do, and it's funny because it's so funny how God works. But it's or how the things that or at least I'll speak for myself. The things that I gravitate to most now are the things that were already they were already there when I was a kid, and so like because my new show F Now What is so. It's just so autobiographical. What it basically is me and the three voices in my head. And those three voices, they are actual characters. So they are people. And so you see how the workings of my mind are going as Elizabeth herself is trying to figure out whatever it is. Because we all have those sort of voices that are just like, yeah, so what they represent in this show is they represent fight, flight, and freeze. So 3 responses to trauma. And within that, so like flight is just full of doubt and fear and is always telling you to run or you're never good enough or you're never going to make it or you're never going to whatever. Freeze is isolation and depression. And then fight is spirituality and hope. And the one that's more quieter, but is the one like keep going, And so they're bickering as I am trying to figure things out. My show, it details that and we jump through time a lot so that you can see where writing a musical just didn't come out of nowhere. It's like, oh, here's the moment at 13. Or when I produced my first thing for a talent show when I was 10. And it was just like, oh, well, this is what Elizabeth's doing. Let's go back in time to show this moment. So to know that when I decided to produce this as treatment, though it didn't seem like I had ever done it before, I'd never done it on that scale before. But it was like, no, when you were a kid, you saw it and you did it. And when you were this age, you saw it. Even in writing a letter, a piece of dialogue, some lines where the little girl in me is saying, I'm going to write Dad a letter because maybe my writing, something I write for him will make him stop using. So at 5 years old, I was writing. So all these little things, or at 12 years old, I would play the piano, I'd play little things, and even though I didn't know what they were, I was like, oh, this sounds nice, but then the doubt, the voice, would be like, no, you can't do this because you don't actually have experience with this. And so it's just fascinating that as I continue this path, realizing that for a lot of us, I think, we already knew, it's just we forgot. And now it's our jobs as adults now to remember. Remember, because I think as kids we're smart as heck, and then the world gets in the way, and it's just like, oh, now I'm doubting everything. And even now, missing the 10 years of basically 10 years from, I was using basically from 19 to 28, alcohol from 21 to 28, but weed came first, and that's pretty much what I really was doing from 19 to 21. But missing all that time and then waking up at 28, 29, it's just like, oh man, I wasted so much time. So then the voices in my head are like, you're too old, you're too this, you're too that, you're 35, Elizabeth, you're acting like a kid, you're blah, 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 blah. And it's all crap, and how to wrestle with that crap and still go forward. Because the voices are always going to be there. You're just figuring out how to be like, well, yes, you're here, but you're going to sit in the back seat. Mama's going to drive,
That sounds wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll send you a song. You can listen to it. Or 2, if you want to.
Well, maybe we'll put it on my show.
Oh, it's a long song.
Oh, is it?
But at the Improbable Player Gala, we're going to be performing it because it's the finale of both of my musicals. Because it's such a...
I hope you invite me.
To the gala?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I would love to do it.
It's going to be fun, and the performance aspect of it that is being planned and written, because it's going to be a whole new, never seen before improbable performance. It's going to be really, really fun. But the song is called On My Way, and it speaks to going forward despite all of the crap and then passing it on, you know, like to see this through and then pass it on to you is one of the lyrics. It's like, and that's part of recovery, right? So the 12th step, right? So you learn these things and then you pass it on, and that's what we should be doing. And so that's what the song speaks to.
See? Look at how strong and powerful this woman is. This is what recovery did for you.
Oh, praise him. You know,
I don't see any doubt here.
the voice has shut off for now. It's gonna come back on when this is over. It's gonna be like, girl, did you do that right? What did you say? Did you say the wrong thing? Like it's.
Absolutely
You know?
not. This was a perfect session.
Oh, thank you.
We
This
had a
was
great
fun. Oh my God, it's already done.
No, we have 5 more minutes.
Oh my God, jeez Louise, I can talk.
See that? You know, a lot of people come in and they're very, very shy about being on TV. And I try to make them feel comfortable to tell their story. You had a great story here.
Thank you.
And I think maybe you should start to write your story after you've accomplished all these things. Write your story about from where you were at your lowest point and tell, look at me now.
I think I might write a book one day, because like I detail these things in the musicals, like the newest show, that it is the process of, you know, but it's only 90 minutes. But I think that I will write a book one day. And I don't know what yet. I already, in my head, I already have the next 3 musicals planned out.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What I'm gonna, well, the one-ish, so it's called a one-ish woman show, F Now What, because of the voices, so it's me and the voices, but it's gonna be a trilogy. Because this deals with purpose and belonging and recovery, the next one will deal with race and other things. And then the next one, I don't know what that is. I just know there's going to be one. And then you have This Is Treatment, which is the bigger show that we are looking to go to Broadway in the next few years. And so now we're looking for investors.
The woman knows where she's going. And that's
I guess
wonderful.
so. Yeah, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
It's already happened.
Yes, yes,
The
yes.
universe gave it to you.
Yes, and to be honest, without recovery, without the tools, without the therapy, without all that, I don't know if I would have had the dream, but I don't know if I would have been able to realize that it could be a reality. You know, being able to look at the writer of Hamilton in the Heights, who inspired me such, and being able to be like, we had coffee not too long ago. To be able to have that moment was just like, Elizabeth, this is what recovery makes possible. This is what recovery makes possible. It may look like something completely different for you. Do you know what I mean? But that for me was just like, when you put down the drugs, everything, when you put them down and you started to practice and live a new way of life, the sky isn't the limit, your beliefs are, right? So what I believe about myself is going to dictate how far I go. If I believe it's possible, then it's possible.
Absolutely. You know, say, what is the expression? Reach for the sky. You can end up being amongst the stars.
Right. Yes. Was it Casey Kasem who said that at the end of, I can't remember. Dick Clark?
I just saw that
No.
in school one day.
Did you?
You know, I work in the school system. It was on the wall, and I go, you know, it's true. It is true.
That's true.
You know, you can be anything you want to be. You have to work for it.
Yes.
But you certainly can. It's not going to be given to you.
No.
So, guess what? We only have 1 minute left. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
I guess whatever your life looks like, starting now, you have the ability to create something different. It may not happen right away, it may take time, but it is completely and totally possible. 7 years ago, my life didn't look like this. I was a fall down drunk on my way to the grave. And now I'm actually living a dream that I would not have believed possible. And it can be possible for you. Pinch me, girl. Go ahead.
I think my little pooch is not doing too well here. I'm gonna go get him.
Oh my God, he's so cute. I miss my doggy.
Yeah.
My doggy.
So this is little guy.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So cute. Actually, this is a great way to end the segment.
Yeah. He's a beautiful little boy. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need a hug. You go, girl.
Oh, likewise.
Good night, everyone. So I'm just gonna stop this. It's still on YouTube, but
YouTube.
you can
YouTube.
sing.
How. Goodbye.
Hi, buddy. You a good boy? You're a very good boy. Thank you. That was beautiful. You did a great job.
Thank you.
You should be very proud of yourself. Watch it on YouTube tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Probably. Jesus, it's still on. Right? And he was like, where does she live? Who's Miss Joanne? The lady that used to feed you after school lunch.
Say good night, everybody.
No, it's not on. Oh, it is. It is. Good night, everybody.
Goodness gracious.
We're turning that on?